Hello viewers, my name is Andile Noashe from Timbaza Central Senior Secondary School. Welcome to the ECDoE broadcast studio. Today's lesson is about scale. I will be covering these topics for your full understanding. Before we starting our topic in this report, we also having the terminology, concepts and key concepts that the learner should be able to understand it before he's doing or he's going back to the scales. The first one is the dimension. The dimension, the measuring of an object which describes its size and shape in terms of length, width can be the breadth and the height. Learners, also you need to know before you go straight to the scale calculation and scale everything, then you should be able to do the key concept and the terminology of these topics. The first one, terminology and the key concept, is the measurement of an object which describes its size and shape in terms of length, width, and height. And the numerical scale, a scale written in the ratio format, e.g. is 1:100. The scale factor, the factor by which each dimension of the actual object is either reduced for every large object or enlarged for every small object, e.g. 1:100, where 100 is a scale factor. The bar scale, also known as a linear scale, a map element that graphically represents the scale of a map by means of line with ruler marking and units that are proportionally to the scale. The map, two-dimensional representation of an area of the Earth surface, e.g. the map of South Africa. A more detailed representing of a smaller area often shows the landmarks object, e.g. the setting plan of a soccer stadium. Okay. There's also the challenges that are being identified from the diagnostic report and also from the chief marker's report, which say the learners fail to understand the concept of the scale and also give the correct compass direction from the floor plans. To interpret the layout plan, as a result, they are unable to calculate the required length and the required distance correctly. And then they've got no fully understanding the advantage and disadvantage of using the bar scale or the numerical scale. Correctly interpret the question relating to the strip map. So there's our objective of our lessons, scale. By the end of this lesson, they must be able to work out with two types of scale on maps and plans and construction models. Calculate the actual length and the actual distance when map or plans measured are known. And also calculate the map and plan measured when actual length is being given and the distance is being given are known as using the given scale. To determine the most appropriate scale in which to draw, construct, or a map plan and models to determine the scale in which a map plan has been drawn. So the scale drawing represented actual size and shape of an object on a paper, which dimension of the actual object is either reduced or enlarged by the certain ratio, which is called a scale factor. Then we can come straight to the presentation now of the lesson. There is also the types of scales, which is also being given. There's a type of scale which is the number scale. It's always written in a form of 1:100. But at the moment, we have to highlight this as a map and a reality, meaning that if we say 1:100, it means 1 is the map and 100 is the reality, which is the number scale is always written in a form of that one. 100 is called the scale factor. The scale factor, which is called the 100. This means that for every 1 unit of the map on the map is equal to the 100 unit in the reality. And you should always take note, my viewers, that the scales are written in the form of a ratio, which means that an equivalent unit are compared to another, to the reality unit. The second one type of a scale is a bar scale, as also known as a linear scales. These are the examples of a bar scales, which is also these A 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 16 kilometers. B, it's 0 to 6, which is, they also show there it's 1 centimeter in between of them, which is, this one is on scale D. So one of the example, it's 50, it's 1 centimeter and it's 50 kilometers, which for this 50 also represent the 50 kilometers. So if you are in there for that scale calculation, you will be able to, by measuring the map distance between 2 points, meaning that you will be able to, by measuring distance between 2 points and comparing these two distances with the bar scale of the map, you are able to work out the distance between the 2 points, because the distance between 2 points is being given and is supposed to be measured by using the bar scales. The definition of the scales, as you can be able to see, the scale is a measure that shows how many times a smaller object shows on a plan or a map is from the real size of it. So on the paper, it shows that's very small, but on the reality, it shows how big it is, that scales. So if you are having those two scales, there's also the learners that should be very, very careful of this question, and it's also examinable, the types and the advantages of a scale. In these two types of a scale, a bar scale, the advantage of a bar scale is quick and easy to use. Secondly, it may be able to determine the actual length and the distance without doing any calculation. That's the advantage of a bar scale, right? A disadvantage of the bar scale is that the measuring using the ruler string or markings obtained using bar scales tends to be less accurate. So an advantage is quick to use it, but the disadvantage is less accurate. The bar scale may still require calculation to determine the actual length. So even if you've got the bar scale, you need to do the calculation in order to get the actual length. Now let's go to scale number 2, which is the number scale. The number scale, the advantage of a number scale is that a more accurate than bar scales, which means it's more accurate than the bar scales, and also is more convenient to use when working with a small numbers or the small scales. So the number scales is also be very convenient to work it. If it's convenient, it means it's easy to work also with it. But now when you're working with a small, so that was the advantage of a number scales. The number scales also have the disadvantages of it. The number scales require the use of a calculator. It means you have to use the calculator. Remember, in the bar scales, you don't use a calculator, and you can also direct it. But on the number scales, you have to use the calculator. With a digital printing, number scales become inaccurate. So it means that a bar scale is accurate and the number scale is inaccurate. It means there is a resizing of a map plan. As you know that the number scales, sometimes you convert to the nearest kilometer or the nearest centimeter, and then the bar scale, you don't convert, it gives you correct thing. Those advantages of doing that should be also the same. Let's have a look on the activities of the scales and the reality of this activity. For example, this one, Temba's garage is 3 meters wide and 8 meters long. Work out the length and the width of the garage on a plan with each scale below. So the scales here at A, the scales here at A, the scale here at A is 1:100. Now, the width of the scale in centimeters, remember the scale is being given the width in meters. Now, you have to convert it from meters to centimeters. Now, if you're from meters to centimeter, it means you are from the biggest to the smallest. So centimeter is the smallest. So meters is the biggest. So from the smallest to the biggest, it means you multiply. And you're also going to multiply by 100. You multiply by 100, which is the scale factor, which means the width can be 300 meters. That will be 300 centimeters, because it will be 300 centimeters, 3 meters of the width. And now if you go to the width on the 1:200 of the scales, also it means that you are going to divide by 200, and then that's what you are going to do to find it, those centimeters. Coming up to another one, they say on a plane, which is this one, on a plane with a scale as 1:50, the floor of a rectangular cardboard is shown with a dimension of 2,5 centimeters by 3,6 centimeters. I also have to have an emphasis on these viewers. Look at the scales. The scales doesn't have any units. Hence, if you are working with a scale, there is no unit should be there. It's 1:50, meaning that there's one. It is not saying 1 centimeter or is equals to 50 centimeters. No, it's 1:50. So the scale doesn't have any units. Now, in this plan, they say plan is 1:50. The floor of a rectangular cardboard is shown with a dimension of 2,5 centimeters by 3,6 centimeters. When they say it's by, it means 2,5 times, which means 2,5 can be the width and 3,6 is the length. Now, the length is always becomes the biggest side of an object. So if you can look at it, they never show me which one is the length, which one is the breadth. Then I can see the biggest one of these two will be the length. Determine the actual dimension of the floor in meters. Now I have to convert this centimeters into meters, and then I will be able to multiply by 50. Or I can take 50 multiply by 2,5, and if I get the answer, then I will divide by from centimeters to meters, small to big. It means I will divide by 100 to get the actual distance of these two measurements. The first, I will multiply by the scale factor, which is 50. Then from centimeters, it will become automatically centimeters. Then it is centimeters. Then I will divide by 100, because centimeters small to meter, which is high, the distance in between is 100. Then I will divide by 100 as I ask. Now, if you want to determine the actual factor. Now, on a plane again, on this one, an actual length of 5 meters is represented by 25 centimeters. Now, by 25 centimeters, when they say determine the scale of the plane, now it's 500 meters and is being represented by 25 centimeters. You can see that 5 meters, if I can convert this 5 meters, it will go to 500 centimeters. 500 centimeters. And now I can just compare to 25 centimeters. Now I will say 500 as to 25. Then it's able to leave those 2 centimeters underneath, and then you've got 500 as to 25. Then the scale factor can also come in there. Dividing by 25 both sides, you get 1 as 2. How many? 25 on 500. That's also the representation of that scales. The last one, which I also want to talk about when we deal with the scale, is also being rounded off through this activity of Mr. Ndlovu and his family live in the Beaufort West. A map of South Africa is given below, showing the different different towns. Now let me just check on activity number 3. Activity number 3, which is Mr. Ndlovu and his family live in Beaufort West. A map of South Africa is below, is showing the different towns. So there is the different towns is being shown there on an activity number 3. There is Mr. Ndlovu is living at Beaufort West. So if I'm saying this, there is Beaufort West in South Africa is given below, showing the different towns. So there is different towns which are here, but it's where Mr. Ndlovu is staying, the Beaufort West. And now they've been given, and let's check the questions which also they say, okay, use the above map of South Africa to answer the questions. The question number 1, which state that identify the type of scale used on the map. They say identify the type of scale which is on the map. Now, if I'm identifying that scales, I can see there is a type of scales. There is, and to me, it's always a bar scale. It's being identified. So the scales on the map is being written at the bottom. As you can see, there is 100, 0, 100, 200 miles. Then you'll be able to check which scale is being identified there, which is the bar scales. Also, question number 2, which is write down the advantage of using these scales. The advantage of using these scales. These advantages of using the scales. You still remember? They say it's quick to use it and doesn't have any calculator. You don't need any calculator. So there is an advantage of using this one. You don't use any calculator and it's quick. Remember, it is also accurate to work with a bar scales. Number 3, they say measuring the map distance in millimeters between the East London and Durban. In millimeters between the East London and Durban. Between the East London, let me just check it. The East London and Durban. Now I have to take my ruler to measuring the distance between the East London and Durban. Now here is East London and Durban. Now if I'm saying the East London and Durban, now my ruler, which are we also measuring, remember the ruler also got the millimeters. If I can take the ruler to measuring there from Durban to East London. Here is it, and I can say it's 1, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now I can say it's 50 millimeters. So from Durban, if I'm using the ruler, from Durban to that one is 50 millimeters. Now, if it is 50 millimeters, use the scale to calculate the actual distance in kilometers. Now, it is 50 millimeters. Now, you will be able to take your ruler. You will be able to take your ruler here. For measuring the scale factor first, you have to measuring this ruler by doing this. Now, if you are measuring here, it means that I want to know how many millimeters is equals to 200 kilometers. Now it's 10, 20, and I can say it's 25. So it means that 25 millimeters is equals to 200 kilometers. 25 millimeters is equals to 200. Now I've got 50. How many 25? It is 2, meaning that it is 400, because if 25 is equals to 200, and then 50 will be equals to 400. Therefore, the actual distance from there will be 400. If you go down to check that on the map, you also use the same map as that state that use the above to answer the question that follows. Then you use the map to measure the actual distance in kilometers between Johannesburg and Beaufort West. Johannesburg, use the above measurement to calculate from Johannesburg and Beaufort West, the distance between Johannesburg and Beaufort West. You can also see this. There's Johannesburg. There is Johannesburg. There is Beaufort West. Now, in distance, you are going to be able to calculate the distance from Johannesburg to. Now, if you take this scale, remember, you are going to say, to go like this. There is Beaufort West. There is Johannesburg. If I'm count, let's say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, oh, it just goes down there. There is, yes, there is Beaufort West. Okay, the ruler is marked, put this 10, 20, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I can say 90. So if it's 90 millimeters, then it's 90 millimeters. Remember, the scale said 25. Yeah, that's the scale 25 is equals to 200. So on 90, almost on 90, you've got 2 on 90. If you put on 100, you've got 425. So it means you've got 400. But the other one, which would be 380, it will be 246. That will be 600 and 780 kilometers if you convert it, that 90 according to the scale. If you convert it according to the scales. Now, if you are doing this scale calculation using that one, let's convert that one. Now, let's convert the scale given to the form of 1 as 2. Now, remember, my learners, that 1 as 2, meaning that the same map side should be 1 and the other the number. Now it's 1. If I can just say make it like this, it's 1 as 2, 200 is that the scale is 1 as 2, 1 is equals to 2. Now that means 25, 50 millimeters. If you write there 50 millimeters, will also equal to 200 on the scales. Remember, to measuring it again, we can go back and check whether we are going to measuring with the scale. Now, want to change the scales, and if you change it, you come up with your ruler, put your ruler like this. They say to you, if you want to find exactly on that 200, it go like this. It's 10, 20, and it's almost 30. So 30 millimeters. 30 millimeters is equals to 200 kilometers. 30 millimeters. So if you say 30 millimeters is equals to 200 kilometers. 30 millimeters is equals to 200. 200. Now, if you go back to our question, they say we want to convert. We say 30. This is one, which is 30. 30, which one is 30, is equals to 200 kilometers. Therefore, you can't change 30 millimeters when you work out with kilometers. Then you have to change these kilometers into millimeters. Then if you are confirmed, this is 200 kilometers, meaning that these were millimeters. Now, if I want to check, definitely sure you will divide these scales. You divide this one, and remember, I can't just say divide by 30 to get 1, because I have to convert these millimeters. I have to get the same units. So this is 200 kilometers. Now this is millimeters, meters. Now I have to convert these kilometers into millimeters. Therefore, I will multiply, divide I from the biggest to the smallest. Now 200 kilometers, it means I will multiply from kilometers, from big one to small one. Now our kilometers, I will multiply by 1,000,000 to get centimeters. That will be 200 million. Then I will just have to leave now centimeters. If I've got 200, millions. Then if I've got 30, then I'll divide my 30 by 30, and I divide my 200 million by 30. Then I'll get 1 as to the scale factor that is being needed to us. All right, we are finished. You say the right one advantage of a bar scale, and everybody should be able to understand that one bar, the advantage of using the bar scales, you don't need a calculator to do the answer. Thank you. Let me just make the summary. In this lesson, you also have to you've been given a scale to determine the distance and give the map or plans. Determine a scale for the given plan. So if you're given the plan, then you can change the scales on the plan and give the actual distance or the actual distance that you need to build. Remember, to locate the position on the map, where are you from Beaufort West to Johannesburg, so that the distance you can be able to measure it and convert the distance into kilometers. And if you convert, sometimes if you've given the kilometers, you have to convert to make the scales. Remember, you also have to describe or to draw the simple scale drawing where the scale is given and the base and on the application of simple routine procedure in a familiar context. So if you've been given the scale, you should be able to, if you're given the scale, you should be able to first find the scale is on the paper, then you should be able to make the reality on the given scale. You can also learn us given the scales or the reality, you have to go back to the scales. So both of those two things I've covered in these topics, that you've been given the scale, then you have to do the actual distance. You've been given the actual distance, and then you can be able to do the scales to find the map. We have come to an end of our lesson. You can leave your question and comments. Don't forget to leave the name of your school so you give shout out. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. See you on our next lesson.